What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Progress Always. And I have the honor and the pleasure to reconnect with my roommate from the Dirty D, Dr. Ryan Brown. We go all the way back to Gold's Gym. And now you are a professor and practitioner of metaphysics.
That's correct, my friend.
Questioning all the laws of the universe. You put it very beautifully. In terms of spirituality has been around forever, and science has only been around for 300 years. And science has gone out of its way to dispute spirituality only to confirm and validate spirituality. And before we go there, I'm curious, catch me up on the last 20 years, man. We were roommates for a little bit. And then I up and left and joined the Marine Corps. And it sounds like soon after that, you bounced and went to California.
Yeah, I mean, given timelines, I think that was about the same time. I think you literally kind of did your thing, and then I did my thing. I got sort of headhunted by a franchise because if you remember, we worked for the corporate.
Yep.
And the franchise found out what we were doing at Preston Center and in Dallas and all the point of sale personal training. And they saw the numbers because if you can recall, being that it's 20 years ago, we were doing phenomenal PT numbers, probably a big part of you and Marshall and, you know, our ability to be able to really sell it at point of sale and some of the things we were doing. But I think it all goes back to our genuineness and our authenticity of wanting to really help and serve the people that we were working with. And we just happened to have a perfect storm there. And so these headhunters, I wouldn't call them headhunters, it was a franchise owners. Okay. They heard about what we were doing through I think it was like one of those big events at Las Vegas where they all come together and do the awards and all that.
Yep.
And people kind of put us on the map. And I got this random phone call around that 2007 time saying, hey, you know, have you ever thought about coming out to California and would you be willing to possibly meet with us? You know, we have some general management and some district management, you know, we have some opportunities. And the funny thing is, you know, with what I teach about vibration and laws of attraction and all these good things, the answer to their question, have I thought about California? I mean, that's actually why I moved to Dallas, because it was close to California. Like, I'm from Ohio, and I just always dreamed of being on the West Coast. You know, I was wearing Ocean Pacific OP clothes growing up in my jams. And
well, bro, when we worked together, you had the frosted tips, bro. You were all Cali, baby. I get it.
Well, it was early 2000s. You know, I probably thought I was Justin Timberlake or something. You know, my hairs are growing out. I got some color here still.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I mean, that was the time of our lives, right? We were young. We were in our early, how old were we? I guess we were in our mid to late 20s, early mid 20s. We were just trying to understand life. And, you know, to what I teach, to what you do, you know, every human is having an experience. If you're alive and you're breathing and you have a heartbeat and you have, you know, you're alive, you're having an experience. The question is, are you having a good experience? Is your experience positive? And if you look around the planet, most people aren't having such a great experience.
Right.
And because they're operating their paradigm, their life from a certain perspective or a program that was given unto them by wherever they came from. And, you know, so, you know, we're young and happy and healthy and trying to figure out life in our 20s. And it was just, what a time. We had some good times.
So you took advantage of the opportunity. You went to Cali.
Yeah. Went out to California. I did that for I think about two years or so.
Where were you at? LA?
Well, they first put me at a brand new gym that they were opening, which was what they wanted me for, which was called Simi Valley, which was Simi Valley is just outside Westlake Village, which is basically a suburb of Malibu. So I'm sitting here, Ohio boy, just living 20 minutes from Malibu, and it was really cool. But it was out in the valley, and you know, I worked 2 years there and I had a blast. I learned a lot. And, but I realized I'd been out there when I was there for 2 years, you know, if you remember Gold's Gym, it's long hours, you know, and this franchise was all about numbers and goals and hitting, we'd hit a goal halfway through the month and they were like, how did you do that? And then they would change the goal in the middle of the month. And if you remember about how all the numbers and hitting goals and all that stuff, you know, they were more about that than a lot of things that I thought were important. And so what happened was 2 years into it, I literally, I just quit cold turkey. It was like the corporate guy just deciding to leave his job he's had. And they didn't like that, because it was, there was nothing happened. I literally realized I've been out here for 2 years and I've been to the beach a handful of times. Like I was slaving away for somebody else. And, while it was a good job at the time and I enjoyed it, I realized that it was time for me to graduate and do other things. So I quit and I lived on the beach for about 6 months in a tent. A lot of people don't know this part. I cashed in everything, sold all my stuff. I rented for $39.99 a storage unit, with a little garage, just a little 20 by 20 storage unit. And I put whatever I couldn't give away or sell that was in there. Like I went to Walmart and bought these like little clothes hanger things. So I basically had like a little closet, a couple trash bags, and whatever I felt was really valuable to me in this garage. And then I lived on the beach, and it was $25 a week, and I had public showers and public restrooms, and it was really fun. I had 2 yellow labs. You remember them?
Yeah.
So they were still with me. So I just basically, and I didn't know if I was going to be living on this beach for a week or for the rest of my life or 6 months, 6 years. So, it ended up being half a year. And then I had this awakening, this idea. I sat up out of bed at like 4 a.m. I just sat up from my sleep and I was like, I'm supposed to move back to Ohio and go all in with metaphysics. But I didn't know what that looked like or what that meant or how that would work. But it was such a loud calling to me that I heard. Now, the funny thing is I didn't want to move back to Ohio. So I had this little battle where I was like, I had, my higher self, if you want to call it that, my consciousness telling me to go to Ohio. And I had this clear image, but I was like fighting. I was like, but I love Ohio. I love California. I love out here on the West Coast. Everything's great. But I made the journey back, and halfway through my long, 24-hour drive back to the Midwest from California, about halfway, I just started having all these aha moments, what it was going to be called, how it was going to work, what the website would look like with the logo and the colors, like all this stuff just started being like downloaded into my awareness. And, so it was a really fun drive back, and I got home and sort of started putting things together. And here we are 20 years later.
Holy shit, man. That's awesome. Congrats, bro.
Thank you.
I told you I had a conversation with Amy Messer, who used to sling deals with us,
right
back at Gold's, and her and I shared a moment today that I'll share with you now. And there's nothing cooler to me than seeing my people winning. You know what I mean? And like just feeling your energy, vibrating your frequency right now, man. It's like my man is happy.
Yes.
And that's the fucking best, dude.
It's the best. Well, I mean, that's what we're in what's the Constitution? I mean, we're in America for the pursuit of what?
Happiness.
Right. And so if you ask the average person if they're happy, you get this, the fake social media. Yeah, I'm happy. Look at me with my mate or my animals, and I'm doing fun things. Look, I'm happy. But are you really happy? Are you really, do you even know what does that mean to be happy? And so that's my life work, is helping people live in such a way that they embody happiness, not validate happiness by buying a new car or designer jeans, a fancy watch, getting the right girl or guy, or having the house. And, we think in terms of happiness as stuff because we've been trained that way by our society. The more stuff, the more you win, the more gold medals. And, and I get it. All those things can make you feel good. They're accomplishments and all of that. And I'm no different. I wanted a house. I wanted a car. I wanted all these things. But those are the stories that we tell ourselves that we're programmed to think will make us happy. Then we get all this stuff and we go, now what? It's like, I have all this. It's like stuff doesn't make you happy. And so, there's millionaires on yachts right now that are thinking about suicide. It ain't the money. It ain't the stuff. It's what's going on within you. Life doesn't care about what you want. It cares about what you are. And that's what I want to teach people. That's what I do teach people. But I had to learn that for myself and really figure out how to live that. And that didn't happen overnight. I thought I knew everything, but I'm like, 2022 is when I had this real big aha moment. and projected me back into this work.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, well, it's funny because as you're describing all that stuff, all the material accumulation, you know, the designer jeans, the watches, I was like, dude, we used to fucking live that life.
Yeah, of course. we were the kings of it.
That was us. Yeah.
It's like, who's the winner of the physical world? In the
Mhm.
physical world, we label as the 3D. It's the third dimensional realm. The
Yeah.
3D is the world of the matter, the material, the particle.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is I got really good, and you as well, at winning, because we thought we were supposed to win, because we're raised in a society that you know, lifts you up if you are a winner.
Mhm.
And then who decides what winning actually is? That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But we got really good at conquering the third dimensional reality.
Mhm.
But what's that do? What's that provide? What's that mean?
Mhm.
Because Einstein says the sole governing agency over the particle is energy. So I'll say that again. Energy is the sole governing agency over the particle. The particle is the material world. That's the 3D physical self. But it says energy is the sole governing agency over that particle. So that means the physical you is second. The non-physical you is first. But they're both one and the same thing. And so there's a lot to unpack there, but it all comes from a place of perspective. How you view life creates everything that you're looking for.
Yep.
And so your perspective creates that perception, and all of your beliefs flow from that perception. But yeah, so I've just been on a mission to live in such a way that I can inspire others. You know, Mother Teresa said, you can't change the world, but you can be the change you wish to see in the world. So I said, before I can really do this work and really help somebody else, I got to be as authentic as I can. And, you know, not just put on a facade or a front or act like I know stuff, you know, be well read and well versed. No, you have to embody it. You have to live it. You have to become it. And that was, that's where I'm at now, I believe.
That's awesome.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, of course.
Every day is a new day, but
well, my favorite word in the work that we do and what we ask of our clients is practice. That's what it is. You know, none of us are perfect in this endeavor. And if you're truly stretching yourself, the unintended consequences of that stretching is potential regression to what's comfortable, what's familiar, what you know as you approach the unknown, right? And all of that's okay. But the real progress is not so much not regressing, but more so if and when you do, how much tighter is that feedback loop? How much tighter do you stay to center compared to an older version of you that would have been swayed way far for a really long time, right? And then as your ceiling becomes your new floor, right? That dynamic continues to exist. So we never escape that the signs of growth if you're in the constant pursuit of it.
Well, that's why our DNA is like a spiral. In other words, it's not, you know, you think of things in circles and cycles, but it's always expanding.
Yes.
It's always growing. So when you hit one floor, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. Where's it end? It doesn't. It's infinite. And that's what we're doing. And we're ascending as we speak. Our planet's ascending. So therefore, everything on the planet is ascending. And ascension is rising up. It's lifting up. It's going higher than you were the next day. It's going to the next level. I'm at this level. All right, next level. And by the way, brother, I think it's hilarious is when I went out to California, of course, the first thing I had to do is buy a Jeep Wrangler because and so I get a Jeep Wrangler because I had this vision long
dude, I can totally see it. You
so
ride around the Jeep, bro.
Oh, dude, I had the top off. But here's what you'll think's hilarious. I mean, and this, you can't make this up. This is where synchronicities are so great. I had to get on my windshield, I had a black tinted visor strip, right? And there was this guy selling in this little mall. He had this little shop out in the middle of the mall where you'd walk around, and you could get vinyl customized decals. And guess what I put up there on the front of my car?
Next level.
and because I told those guys when I came to the Gold's Gym is we're going to take this gym and your franchise to the next level.
Yeah.
And they're like, they thought that was just the greatest thing. So I doubled down and put next level in this cool Cali script writing on my front of my black Jeep Wrangler. And I just think it's great that you're wearing a t-shirt that says next level and that's your company. So what are the chances?
Dude, it's funny, man. That it came to me like you moving out to the beach or I'm going back to Ohio on the beach. It was 3:00 in the morning. I was iterating and ideating what I'm gonna call this thing, what embodies the work that I'm going to be doing upon exit from the Marines. And it's like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. I take people to the next level. That's what we do,
That's what you do.
And that's where it came from. And then the logo has a dual meaning. It's a tribute to my military heritage. The highest rank you can achieve in the military is 4-star general. Right. But it also represents our 4 states of being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And the 4-star, the big one, is incomplete. Everybody's like, hey, dude, your logo's off center. And it's like, no. It's incomplete by design because we never actually get there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where it all comes from. I don't think I've ever said that on the show, man. So I appreciate
that's awesome. I think that's so cool what you just said, because I have a modality that I teach and train from called the Freedom Loop. And the Freedom Loop has 6 quadrants, and then it breaks down and there's 4 quadrants. And those 4 quadrants are your emotional, mental, physical, and emotional. Those 4 pillars that you're just talking about. So we're building off the same principles.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super cool.
No, man, this is such a serendipitous conversation. I'm so happy to reconnect with you. We have literally not spoken for almost 20 years.
Well, I have flashbacks of you driving your car to my house with a freaking your arm
mattress
hanging out the window. You got a mattress bungee corded to the top of your roof.
I got a speeding ticket that day too, bro.
I'm like, oh my God, there's no way that mattress is gonna fly down 75 or whatever we were on. And you just sit there like one arm. I just see this big ass arm hanging out the window holding on this thing. I'm like, I mean, it works.
Bro, that season of my life, man. I'm curious on your thoughts to this, because I don't know if you know this or not, man. I was in a really bad place when we lived together. Like, I was just starting to come out of the deepest valley of my life. I got kicked out of the Air Force Academy, and then I played two more snake bit seasons at East Texas. I come to Dallas. I got kicked out of my sister's house. Gold's was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I hit the ground running and and then they were like, hey, dude, you got to move to Preston Center. That's where you and I met. And I was down and out, and I needed a place to stay. And you invited me to move in with you. You had an extra bedroom. And then I just quit all that shit and joined the Marines.
Yeah.
And you and I were living very, very different lives at that time, but running parallel to each other, and whether we were training together or up at the house after hours, we would fall into these really deep conversations about the universe and what it all means. And, what is this the end all be all for you? And what comes after this and all that, man. And it was, you were you probably don't know this. You were the lifeline I needed at the time.
Yeah. I had no idea. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for your generosity and, helping me out when I didn't know which way was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you sense something in other people when you're aware and when you're paying attention. See, the average person is so distracted that they're not paying attention to that energy. They're paying attention to their logic mind. And the logic mind is usually hijacked and overridden by all these programs of, society around them, all the noise and distractions. And so people don't realize now that we have two minds in the body. You have a mind up here, right? The mind that we've all been told about, the brain and this idea of consciousness, but you have a neural network in your brain. Well, what science is now showing us is that you actually have a whole completely separate neural network in your heart. And that neural network, the mind in your heart, is actually 4,000 times more powerful than the one in your brain. The idea is to connect them, and that's where you get that alignment, because the brain can think one thing and the heart can be thinking another thing. And that's where you're out. And most people aren't feeling into their heart, so that it's just not even serving them. They're not allowing the most magical, powerful thing that they have to even present itself, because they're too stuck up here. And when you're stuck up here, you're worried, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're thinking about tomorrow, you're thinking about yesterday, you're everywhere except for right now, right here, which is where life is actually happening. And so when you can go into the heart and you understand that feelings are the language of the soul, and you look to how you feel about things start to come into your awareness. Because I don't believe that we really think thoughts. And let me explain. I believe that we receive thoughts based on the frequency that you're living in. And so if you're living in a positive, we'll break it down to positive and negative. We can call it pride, revenge, anger, hatred, desire, anxiety, worry, grief, regret, insecurity, all these things that represent lower vibes, right? And then we have all these higher vibes, optimism, belief, positive expectations, love, joy, appreciation, gratitude, empowerment, all these positive things. But let's just break it down to love or fear or positive, negative. When you're in a positive state, you receive positive information. When you're in a negative state, you receive negative information. If you're annoyed, everything annoys you. You see what I'm saying? We don't see the world as it actually is. We see the world as we are. And so most people are walking around annoyed and negative and malnourished and just depressed and anxious. And so everybody's living in this place where everything bothers them. And I shouldn't say everyone, but the great masses of our country and the great masses of our planet are living in fear, are living in lack mentality. And so when you're living in such a low vibrational state, science shows us you cannot think greater than you feel. And that's the hard part with the work that you and I do. We're like, hey, we got to get you to think better, right? And that's why my business is called Fit Minds, because you got to train your mind. As we know from Gold's Gym and from CrossFit and from anyone who does any exercise, when you train the body, in fact, there's actually a personal training studio here in Ohio called Fit Bodies. It's been around forever. And Fit Bodies is pretty understandable what it is. You train your body, you get fit. Well, what about fit minds? Because the body doesn't go anywhere unless the mind goes there first. So let's train the mind. Well, what are we going to train the mind? Well, I could teach you whatever, but it's not about what I want you to believe. It's not what I want you to think. You have to make that choice for yourself. What perspective do you want? And it all starts with the understanding of I am. Because I have a saying, I wear it on my bracelet. You probably can't see with all this hair, but it says right here on the back of all my shirts I wear, all my sweatshirts, it says freedom is a state of mind. Because your state of mind dictates your state of being, and your state of being is your vibrational output. And if I tune my radio station to 97.9, which is a local, top 40s radio station here, if I'm driving around in my car and I go, you know what, I don't like this radio station, what do? We change it. Imagine I'm driving around this car and I'm like, this music's annoying me. And I don't realize that I can actually change the station. I have a say in the matter. But I have this awareness that I've learned that you can change the station. You reach down, you push a button, turn the knob, whatever. And I change it to, let's say, 92.3. Now I got country, or I change it to 101. I got some acoustic stuff with it. But what happens is the music isn't made inside the radio. Like Justin Timberlake isn't sitting there in my car playing the music or making it behind my dashboard. It's made somewhere, and it sends airwaves over this big, radio towers all over the place. And there's airwaves out there that are invisible, by the way. We don't see them, but we know they're there. Frequency, and frequency carries information and data. Well, I tune my car, the signal goes out, and a matching signal comes back. We call that constructive interference. And so when I put it to 97.9, I always get 97.9. And that, in fact, when those two frequencies meet, they double itself in strength. And then the receiver in my car stereo, receives the data and projects it, and amplifies it.
Mm-hmm.
So when if I have it a 97.9, when 92.3 or any other station that's not 97.9 meet, they deflect, they cancel out. So the only thing I'm getting is what I'm tuned into.
Right.
Most people aren't tuned into anything. They don't realize that they can change their mind. They can set their perspective. They can set their intention, because your intention creates your attention. And so, as you know, with anything you do, whether it was football, whether it was, grades or the army, I mean, anything that you've ever done in life that you were successful with, you had to focus.
Yep.
And your focus comes from a place of intention.
Yes.
And so your intention is your I am. That's you changing the station. I am fill in the blank. I can't tell Mycal what he is. Only you can. Mm-hmm. I can encourage you, or I can live in such a way that you may say, hey, I like Ryan's vibes. I'm going to emulate him. When we play sports, when I played baseball, I go, man, that guy can really hit the ball. I want to emulate him. That's what NLP is. Neuro-linguistic programming is observing, and then, monkey see, monkey do. You start to observe around you, and then you apply it to yourself. So again, I can't change you. I can't change my client. I can't change my mom or anybody, but I can live in such a way. I can program myself and be such a way that I radiate this magnetic energy where other people might say, wow, how do I live like that? And that's not an ego thing. That's not a narcissistic thing. That's a way that I can embody my authenticity, my love, my peace, my bliss. When I live that way, it's not a matter of what I'm doing. It's what I'm being while I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah. It also, in that way of being, you become a walking invitation into something better, to whoever needs to receive it. Mm-hmm. Right. And you see this a lot in the circles that we run in. I can only assume from afar in Ohio, you witness this dynamic the same way I witness it here in Arizona, in that when people start to get that glimpse of a higher, better version of themselves, their first inkling is, ooh, they want to externalize. This worked for me, so I need to go check. I want you to make the same changes that I just saw in me. So come do my thing, right? And I call that the self-help asshole, right? You're one step ahead of whoever it is that you desire to change with you, right? And really and truly, that actually creates a polarization, to use your word, a deflection, right? Because now you're coming at this personal growth thing from a place of judgment, as opposed to starting to walk in your own journey, and to your point, embody that shift, that change. And then all of a sudden, along with that, what has to happen is a change in your environment, a change in your circle of influence, et cetera. And you're presenting people with a choice, right? They can either stay where they are or come along with you, right? It requires zero effort on your part. And this was a really great reframe for me in leadership, in that one of the hardest things that I had to learn was the fact that not everybody comes with you all the way to where you're going. Like, people will get off the bus
right
at certain points. However, yes, that is true, but a better reframe is by pursuing where you're going and going after it with conviction. All along the way, you're creating the option for others to, you're vacating a seat that was occupied by a previous version of yourself and creating space for somebody else to sit in that seat.
And said another way, what you're basically explaining is essentially the law of attraction, which is now deemed as the law of vibration. In other words, you make a choice to live your life in such a way, or to go after whatever it is you want to go after, et cetera, et cetera. And you then live in a certain vibrational bubble. And so the people that are going to join you for that journey are striving to be that same vibrational bubble. And the people who are not a match to that vibrational bubble, they disappear. They fall from your, misery loves company, right? And that's because miserable people are attracted to miserable people. And when I say miserable, I mean people who shame themselves, when I say miserable, people who are just not happy. Happy people don't want to hang around miserable people. Miserable people don't want to hang around happy people. And when you're pursuing something that lights your fire, whatever that is, starting a new business, going on a roller coaster, whatever it is that excites you, you're living in your bliss. And when you live in your bliss, you live in such a way that the universe starts rallying around you, because you now quantum jump your consciousness from one state of being to another state of being. At the moment you change your mind, you change your vibration. So that's what I mean by changing the station. And so if you've ever heard the term quantum jumping, and I know everyone thinks sci-fi, or they think of the TV show Quantum Jump or Quantum Leap or whatever. But to quantum jump, the idea of quantum jumping is literally to teleport your consciousness from one state of being to a new state of being. So like you said, when you reframe something, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And where your attention goes, your energy flows. So what metaphysics is the science behind the science. It's the oldest branch of philosophy that exists. In fact, Aristotle was considered a metaphysicist. So just like wrestling was the oldest sport, because as long as there's been people, they've been trying to beat each other up. So, let's see who wins. Let's wrestle. But yeah, that's the whole idea, is you have to look at you as you're the receiver of information, and you have to decide what information you want to receive. Because how you think, how you act, and how you feel broadcasts information into this quantum field, or the ether, or whatever you want to call it. But if I look at my phone right here, we don't see the Wi-Fi signal. When I look at you on the screen, I don't see the Wi-Fi signal. But you have this Merkaba, you have the soul, you have this light within you, the spark of divine essence that's you and only you. And that light is bright. Imagine a beacon or a lighthouse out on the West Coast, this big lighthouse, and these naval ships are looking for it. They're finding that North Star. They're finding that bright light. Well, imagine that bright light has all kinds of shit around it, has all kinds of black goo and whatever. And they're out there in the ocean. They can't find the light. The thing that's trying to look for the thing can't find it because it's not bright. So all of the things that you want in your life is trying to get to you. But if you're not living in that authentic way, your light is dim and it can't find you. In other words, if you're not being you, the people looking for you, the things looking for you, the circumstances, events, and all the stuff looking for you can't find you if you're not being you. What do you mean by being me? Well, you are love. Are you being love? You are positive, you are peace, you are blissful, you are joy. All of those things, that's what you really are. So if you're not feeling that or being that, that means you're not being authentic to who you really are. Which is your indicator. That's your I ask people, how do you feel right now? If it's anything other than amazing, then you've cut off the flow of life to you.
Dude, one of my favorite, this came to me in a growth experience called body electronics. Are you familiar with that by chance?
No, but that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I will put you in touch with them down in Houston. Faith is an amazing practitioner, and it was a game changer for me. Cool. Because I am a self-proclaimed recovering credential chaser.
Right.
Like I explained to you, I spent the better part of the last 20 years trying to become so successful in my own mind that the academy experience became irrelevant to the story. Right. When in actuality, in my hero's journey, it's the inciting incident. None of this happens. This conversation doesn't take place. I don't get that speeding ticket with a mattress on top of my car moving into your house. Gold's Gym doesn't happen. Ryan and Mycal never come together.
Right.
And in that experience, going back to this regression to what's comfortable and familiar, right? This is 8 days, 12 hours a day of deep work, right? No plant medicine, no nothing, but like transcending the conscious and coming into your feeling world.
Yes.
Right. And at the end, in the wrap up, they're like, what are the 3 things that you're going to do? Right. And even then, in the immediate aftermath of that experience, my mind immediately jumped to, ooh, I'm gonna do this for the company and this, but like all this material achievement.
Mm.
And Faith looks around, at my cohort, and she's like, did any of that move the room?
Mm-hmm.
No. She was like, try again. Dude, what showed up? Keeping date night a priority with my wife. Integrating daddy day with my kids.
Love.
And finishing my book.
Okay.
Right. That has been inside me for years. Right. And now that I'm in tune with that, all kinds of things are coming to me, for me. Right. Everything I get to build in this next version of the business is centered around that. I shared with you that story about how do you build it from now so that it serves you from here. Right. And the forefront of that equation are those three things.
And those three things represent love for you, because the book is going to inspire and change a lot of people's lives. And that represents love. I mean, there's nothing more loving than to give somebody back to themselves, to help somebody hit that next level, to help somebody become a better version of themselves. That's love. Yeah. So your book represents love. Of course, we know Daddy Day, Daddy Night, and being a dad represents love. No greater joy. And then, of course, date night. That's love. Yeah. Those three things are authentic to you and have nothing to do with the material world. Right. In other words, materialism. Yeah. And so you transcended the 3D by going past space-time into the fifth dimensional realm of consciousness, of love. Because, I look at when you're dealing the material stuff, that's what we first started this conversation out with, talking about the particle, the material world. And we're in this material world for a short period of time, but this material world is it's an illusional reality that is all run by our consciousness. So when you're doing material stuff, you're living out of here. When you're doing those three things that you said are, your new aim point, your new intention, those come from here. Do you see what I'm saying? Oh, so those are you got a choice from here, or you got a choice from here. This choice is always your highest choice you can make. Yep. And that's so powerful. So congratulations on you.
Man.
And
I appreciate that, dude.
That is cool.
So here's a question for you, man. In your journey of searching for self, has this been a very much an intellectual endeavor? Are you experienced in the Jimi Hendrix sense of the word? Where does plant medicine fit in your journey, if at all? Like how did Ryan come to accept this higher degree of consciousness?
Wow, that's an awesome question. And wow, I have a lot to unpack, but I'll try to keep it simple. But you and I we're at an age in a time of history that's unprecedented. We are living in our planet, everyone watching this, we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And without getting woo-woo and astrological and stuff like that, what I mean is we're moving into the age of technology. We're moving into the age of information. So our consciousness, our awareness of self, our understanding of everything is exponentially growing. So you and I, when we were in our 20s, when we were growing up as a kid, we didn't really have technology. I mean, I think I was at Gold's Gym when the first iPhone came out, because that was 2006. Yeah. And I remember it was just this little stupid thing, and I could listen to a couple songs. I didn't even know what I was doing with it. And the fact that I could even afford one, I think I spent my whole paycheck on it probably at Gold's. Who knows? We were at that age, right? We're just like trying to figure it out. But my point is, we grew up in a reality that was extremely inauthentic to be authentic. In other words, we were striving for all the material stuff because that's what our parents taught us. That's what their parents taught them. It was a generational story passed down. It was our country. Our country was built on the fact of conquering and getting stuff in the material world.
Yep.
And that's how we build. And then fast forward to today, to answer your question, in 2022, and by the way, I never had smoked marijuana, plant medicine, medicinal, anything. I was straight and clean. I started, I got into alcohol a little bit in Dallas, and that I started learning about that because I didn't even drink in college. And I realized quickly alcohol can really get you into a lot of trouble and make you do stupid stuff. So that part of my life was sort of just weird. But in 2022, 3 physicists won a Nobel Peace Prize for proving that non-local realism exists. Let that sink in, because most people don't understand what non-local realism is. If you're playing a video game, and we've all played video games, and there's a screen, and on the screen there's Mario, or whatever, there's a character. That character is local in the game. Non-local is me sitting on the couch holding the controller. So for a moment in time while I'm playing this game, the character is actually me, because I'm giving it instructions. I'm telling it what to do. Imagine that character isn't aware of me or not responding to me. I'm trying to make it jump and it's not jumping. What a disconnect. Most people are completely disconnected to their higher self that's actually trying to help them play the game. Now, you can call it God, you can call it Jesus, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Those are just words that humans try to give things that they don't understand. But the idea is non-local realism. That means that everything exists based on your observation of it. And the observation of it, meaning life is completely meaningless. It has no meaning except for the meaning that you give it.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And that comes from your perspective. It comes from the way that you look at life, your perception. We have an outer belt here called 270. It goes around Columbus and Ohio State University and all that good stuff. And if I were to say, Mycal, come visit, hang out, I want to play a game with you. I want you to go drive around 270. It takes about 45 minutes to get around the whole loop, maybe an hour. And I'm going to give you $1,000 for every red Jeep Wrangler that you see. You're like, all right, I'm down with this game. That's cool. So you get in your car and you drive around, you come back, and I go, how many red Jeep Wranglers did you see? And you tell me I saw 20 or whatever the case is. And that's a lot of money. So I gave you the perspective. Okay, keep in mind. So you're out there hyper-focused for red Jeep Wranglers. And I go, okay, so you saw 20 red Jeep Wranglers. By the way, how many white BMWs did you see? They're like, well, that's not fair. I didn't see any. I'm like, why not? Because I wasn't looking for them.
Right.
And so in life, we find what we're looking for, because again, as I said earlier, where our attention goes, our energy flows.
Yeah, that's your reticular activation system.
Your RAS, that's right.
Yeah,
your activating system. I'm impressed. It kicks in and it causes you to focus.
Yep.
That is your focus. And guess what that creates? A belief.
Yep.
Because you now have a belief system that is hardcore rooted. Why? Because you saw it with your own eyes, witness. Right. So let's say I challenge you, Mike. Yeah, come on, man. You didn't see 20 red Jeep Wranglers, bro. I'll give you this much money because you probably saw 2. What? We just lost our friendship. What are you talking about? I saw it. In other words, guess what follows your beliefs, your behaviors, your actions. Your behaviors and your actions come from your beliefs. Your beliefs come from your perception, and your perception comes from your perspective. Well, what comes from your behaviors? Well, your behaviors and your actions create your experience. The experience that you're having creates the reality. And so in 2022, when I started understanding that there's this physical version of us, and again, I knew all of this stuff, but when it's now science is mainstream science, by the way, not just some, random scientist, mainstream science and quantum physics and all the stuff that we're working with as our number one science right now starts validating all the stuff that spirituality has been saying for over 5,000 years. Yep. It starts to make me rethink how I'm living. It makes me really want to, go all in, put all my chips in. Cause you always kind of do that, but then you're like, what if I'm just crazy? Because you're so far, my view, my perspective, my understanding is so radically different from the masses. You often question, maybe I'm just the weird one. Maybe I am just, smoking too much wacky tobacco or whatever. But around 2020, around COVID, 2021, I started doing, really jumping back into meditations, and I started using plant medicine. So to answer your question, plant medicine started to become a big part of my post 2020 world. And I'm telling you, man, it slowed my frame rate down. It allowed me to get more conscious. It allowed me to really tune in. And that's where all this information started coming into me. I started to really connect with my higher self. I started channeling, which is, I thought was always a goofy thing, but now I'm like doing it. But channeling is, again, I don't even like to use certain words because of the dogma and stuff that comes along with it. But essentially, tuning myself into such a state that I'm receiving really high information. And so yeah, plant medicine is a big part of my life now. I don't drink at all. Alcohol has no place for me. You know, I might have an occasional glass of wine or a beer. I mean, I'm not like one of those people that's like, I'm 8 months sober and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I've never had a problem with alcohol. It doesn't serve me. I don't feel good. It disconnects my Wi-Fi signal to my higher self, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, once 2020 kind of happened and I started looking at life a little bit differently and started saying, you know what, this stuff that I've been teaching and focusing and studying isn't just my spiritual system.
Yeah.
There's something really going on here, and the mainstream science is starting to validate it and has validated it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to come out clunky, but what's your mechanism as far as plant medicine is concerned? Ayahuasca, psilocybin?
Yeah, just THC flower.
I got it. Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I've never actually done ayahuasca. I've never done that kind of plant medicine.
Sure.
What I refer to as plant medicine is just good old fashioned marijuana.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I'm probably not one of the people like I don't use it to party, things like that. And then again, no judgment, and there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, when I go into a meditation, when I'm going to do specific studies, you probably can't tell behind me here, but I have I look like a mad scientist, but I have a dry erase board here, another dry erase board there. I have literally dry erase boards. I have like dozens of these things all over the place with markers all over the place, because I could be just, you know, making breakfast and all of a sudden all this information comes over, kind of like a dream. And if you don't write it down right away, it's gone as quick as it comes in.
Yeah, it goes off to somebody else who's going to use it.
I love that. Exactly. And so while I'm tuned in, or while I'm having this thought, you know, that's where I'll write stuff down. So I have notebooks and journals and all kinds of stuff. And in the beginning, when this started flooding over me and all this information was coming in, I didn't really know what to make about it. I didn't really know what to do with the information and how to organize it, put it together. And so I started an iPad, like just a notepad. And it went, and I started just filling it up, and I have hundreds of pages in it, and it's just wild going back like a year or 2 years ago and reading stuff. And I'm going, wow, that is so profound. Like, it's just amazing. So I've just been kind of really solitary. I've always been a solitary person anyway. But I think when you're happy with yourself, you don't need anything else. So yeah, that's a riddle that I help a lot of people, or I have helped a lot of people solve for themselves, is the differentiation between being alone and being lonely. They're not the same thing. No. You know, and in my practice, I deal with a lot of what I refer to now very lovingly as counterintuitive individuals, because I'm one of those people, in that my expression of my highest and best self, the way Ryan experiences Mycal when all my needs and expectations are being met, is very, very hypersocial, very extrovert, very decisive, very assertive, right? And those needs and expectations being met are very introvert. Like, I cherish time alone. I love going to the movies by myself. I love sitting with self and journaling and doing all that stuff. And it's very counterintuitive, because as you experience me, we all make assumptions and judgments. You would never assume that those introvert tendencies are what actually fill my cup, that recharge me,
facilitate my ability to show up as you experience me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that dynamic creates a war within oneself. And I've experienced it as well, in that I'm rewarded for all of this. But what I really want is that.
Mm-hmm.
How do I create an environment and a circle of influence where I'm able to get that so that I can show up for as I'm rewarded for?
Right.
Right. And if you don't understand that about yourself, if you haven't done the work internal to understand and accept that dynamic within yourself, where you're always going to be at odds with you, you're going to go to the party that you don't want to be at. You're going to take the job that doesn't necessarily agree with your highest and best self. That's actually drained, despite your acumen, your talent, your experience, right? You're going to go do the thing because it's what everybody expects you to do,
Mm-hmm.
when really and truly the thing that serves you the most, that allows you to be that, isn't that thing.
Right.
But that takes a lot of
it takes a lot of knowing thyself, going within, doing that inner work. I mean, heck, if you want to be a great football player, you're like a great baseball player, you spend 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours in the batting cages. You're getting hitting coaches. No one became the Tom Brady's of the world, the Michael Jordans. Nobody did that. Look at Mamba, right? Look at they're early to practice. They're the last one to leave. It's because they have an intention and they're obsessive with that. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to be happy, you need to be obsessive with doing that inner work. I'll help people a little bit here and there on the side. And 2 weeks later, I'm asking how it's going. And they did nothing other than their talk with me. Mm-hmm. Their life went on. Imagine, you want to be a great baseball player. And I go, so how many times did you go to batting cages last month? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot. You didn't go one time in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, what am I doing trying to even help you?
Right.
So it's like how many times did you sit with yourself and just go within and not turn your phone off, turn the TV? How many times do you just sit there by yourself for 5 minutes? Just sit there. Oh, I meant to, but I didn't. It was like, well, if you can't help yourself, there's nothing I can do for you.
Right. Well, dude, it was so funny, man. It just brings a lesson that I walked with my son through when he started playing football. He wants to catch routes, I'm like, dude,
how old's your son, by the way?
He just turned 9.
Okay. I had to get a visual here. Yeah. Perfect age. Yes.
Yeah, dude. And, so he's like, I want to do the thing. Right. And I'm like, all right, dude, after practice, we got 10 catches. Right. Practice ends. He's like, oh, let's just go home. We get home. I'm like, dude, 10 catches. He's like, no. Next practice comes, drops everything.
Right.
Hands like feet. And just gets hyper emotional. And I'm like, dude, you don't get to be sad about this scenario because you didn't do the thing to produce the results you were looking for. So the next time I invite you to 10 catches and you say no, just understand what you're actually saying no to. And in that now, dude, it's like, hey man, 10 catches. He's like, Dad, let's make it 20. Dude, I hit 20 and it's early. I'm getting better. Let's go 30.
What a valuable lesson.
Right. And like that's the work. That's the practice that we're talking about. Right. And then figuring out whether the practice that you're putting in is actually enough to get the result that you're looking for. And you're constantly getting feedback from your universe as to, maybe it's going to take a little bit longer.
Well, and I think it's important for you to mention, because I know you know this, so I'll just add on to what you're saying.
Yeah.
When we talk about becoming better at something, whatever that is, it takes what psychology says 21 days to make a habit. We look at it as like 30 days to make a habit. But imagine your whole life you thought a certain way. Or you lived your life in a certain way. You were just unconscious. You're trying to survive, get jobs, take care of family. And one day you wake up, you're 35, 45, whatever. You wake up and you go, I'm not happy. This isn't working for me. In other words, it's like I keep striking out What's going on? And then the hitting coach comes over and goes, you got to turn your knuckles like this. Your knuckles you've been swinging this way. You got to get these knuckles lined up. Oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And I wouldn't say it's wrong, but this is going to be the proper way and you're going to hit better. But now you're even worse, right? Because you're doing it this way. And now you're even worse. Same thing with golfers and different things. You've been doing it the wrong way. And some people just go, well, I'm too old. I'm going to keep doing it this way because it's all, I know I'm not good at it, but the change is going to be too much for me. In other words, you got to take a step back sometimes to take those 2 steps forward. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward, but you do that inner work, or you do that work with the right grip, and you become better than you currently were, but it's going to take some time to reintegrate into that new.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, man, like everything's the long game, dude. The whole thing is the long game.
It's called life.
So like what are we actually committing to? You know, it's like this, you know, I served in the United States Marine Corps in a time of war.
Thank you, by the way.
I appreciate you, brother. And I don't say that to make it sound like I dodged the bullets and, you know, ducked up under the bombs. Like that wasn't my experience. What I am saying is that I've been in an environment where the decisions are life and death. That's not this reality. That is so far from most people's environment, right? You have an opportunity to commit from now to a long-term shift,
right?
And celebrate and recommit every step along the way.
In other words, celebrate becoming.
100%. It's the process.
It's the process.
It's the practice. And know that it won't be perfect. You know, I can't tell you how many times I have stepped into or committed to stepping into a better version of Mycal, only to fall back into an old pattern, and had to stop myself in that moment and express a huge degree of vulnerability and humility and say out loud, like, hey, I'm doing something new. I'm stepping into a better version of me, or made some kind of justification, explanation, said, let me do it this way. Let me say what I really meant to say, you know? And it's funny, that practice, that display of vulnerability, that admission of humility has only been met with nothing but positive responses. Because even if the result wasn't exactly what I wanted, right? The response was, hey, dude, I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. You know, because to do it the other way only makes me resentful, only makes me feel less. You know what I mean? And it doesn't help anything that I would desire.
And it's not true.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And so once you start living that authentic version of yourself, like you said, even if it doesn't get you the desired outcome that you were hoping for, it's actually more in alignment with who you are.
Right. It doesn't get you the desired, it may not get you what you want right now.
That moment. Right now.
Yes. But if the more you live into that, the more aligned you become. To your point that you made earlier, you're now operating at a frequency that invites all the things that are looking for you.
That are meant for you. Yeah.
Yes. You know, they say things are created twice, once in the mind and then in the physical world.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen in the opposite order.
Right. Like I said, life doesn't care about what you're doing. It's a matter of what you're being while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, man. Dude, this fills my cup, man. I'm so grateful for you, brother. I'm glad we got to reconnect. Where can everybody find you, latch onto your teachings, and, you know, lay at the feet of your wisdom, brother?
Yeah. So Fit Minds, I see it at the bottom of the screen there. FitMindsUnited.com is where you can find out more about my teachings and the stuff that I do and connect with me, etc. I recently had a lot of people including my dad. Shout out to my dad. He's somebody who is diving deep into metaphysics, and it's so great because at his ripe age of 70, you know, we talk about us being in a certain time of transition through life, going from no technology to new technology, all this new stuff. I mean, they say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, but this guy, my father, is just all in with just expanding his mind and becoming the best version of himself. So he's asked me to make thoughts of the day. So I make these 3-minute little recordings just for him, and I just send him a thought like today, you know, according to metaphysics, blah blah blah. Well, I started doing these every day. I'm like, I should share these, and I started having other people. Where can I get your content? And I'm like, 3 minutes is perfect. I should just start posting these. So I created a TikTok. I never had a TikTok before. So if you go to TikTok and you just search for Fit Minds, FITMINDS, Fit Minds, you'll see all my little 3-minute little educational videos. So
love it.
Fitmindsunited.com or Fit Minds on TikTok. We'll have fun.
I dig it, brother. That's awesome, man.
Yes.
For everybody out there listening, head over to coachdurs.com. You can follow my entire network, my tribe, all the latest episodes of Progress Always, and a whole bunch of other cool things that are coming down the pipe for next level. Until next time, Progress Always.